friend.
Hello, how are you?
I'm tired. I'm good. I'm tired.
You know, I think it's just this time of year. I find that there's just been so much going on. And I think, just not even just personally, but I think worldwide, there's been so much going on. And I think that's
Draining.
starting to wear on people and just like their overall feeling
Yeah.
and joy is being
It's
sucked
our
away.
joy is being sucked away. And now we've got the Canadian federal election coming up. So there's a lot. Like, I go to Facebook for relaxation and just chill and just happy, entertaining stuff. And I end up getting all these political posts, which of course makes you think about the political situation, which
Totally.
makes you then either get really stressed or really feel the need to prepare.
Yep.
And so,
Or
yeah,
question everything about everything all the time. And
that
then
too.
what's right? And that's the other thing as well that I'm feeling a little, down and perplexed or just disheartened is all of the fake news that's
hmm
circulating across all sides of every single argument. And it's like trying to decipher what's actually truth and
hmm
what's a bit more on the rhetoric side. And that
Yeah.
makes it so just, again, it wears on you. And I think maybe there's just this a bit of heaviness
Yeah.
around. Um,
Yeah.
so,
And I
but
think I always tend to look for the best in people and believe the
same.
best in people and expect the best from people. And it's a real heavy letdown when you see that not everybody is genuine and not everybody is, coming out with their truth or the truth. And yeah, it can be really difficult. And I think, yeah, you're right. This is weighing quite heavily on a lot of people right now. So,
Yeah. And I think that the most disappointing thing is just how polarizing it all is.
mhm,
And at the end of the day, I think as human beings, I think there's some core values that I think we all can agree on.
mhm,
But sides are forming and those divisions are getting bigger
yeah.
and I think that's really sad and I'm disappointed in humanity.
Well,
you know
at least I know it's so difficult. We here at the Baking Scraps are not going to be expressing any personal political opinions,
Except for just vote, go out
except for,
there,
yes, please go out
vote,
and vote.
please go out and vote whoever you decide is the right person for you in Canada, in the US, wherever you might be watching, any
Mhm,
opportunity that you have the right to exercise your right to vote,
mhm.
please do so.
And a lot of people didn't do that in the last American election. So once again, we are just stressing this is your right and your responsibility
And
and
privilege,
privilege. Get your voice heard, get out there and vote. And
yes,
and in the midst of all this heaviness, and that's the end of that for
that's the
now.
end of it. Sorry to take everybody else
No, I
down.
think a lot of people are feeling
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but we have the most joyful person.
Perfect person for joining us today and
Yes.
spreading a little bit more happiness for sure.
Yes, and we have had Steven Levitt on our show before. He was one of our first guests. He, as one of the fabulous Baker Boys, has joined us for many a recap for season 8 of the Great Canadian Baking Show. And he is a good friend of ours. I just love this guy to pieces.
Mhm.
And having recently returned from an epic motorcycling trip, Steven Levitt joins us today. So, everybody, please welcome our dear friend, Steven Levitt.
Well, there's our buddy. Hello.
Hello, ladies.
Good to see
Hey,
you. Sight for sore eyes.
This is as good as it gets.
you look
We'll take it all.
amazing.
We'll take it all.
Very, very happy to see you.
You too. Haven't seen you guys in a while.
I
It
know.
feels weird, doesn't it? Like every once in a while, it's like, oh yeah, where's my friend? I haven't seen him.
I know. Yeah, after we finish recording all the recaps for a Great
Yep,
Canadian Baking Show from season 8, and we saw you weekly, right? You and Vince
that's
weekly.
right.
we were seeing you guys, and then all of a sudden it stopped cold turkey.
Well,
Just
no, we got
like
to ease out of it
withdrawals.
because we got to watch you on the
That's true.
baking championship.
That's
Yes.
true. That was such a treat.
There was that little thing.
Just that.
That little thing, yes. See, at least we have something new to talk about since the last time we had a chat with you. So
And
officially,
that's why we brought you back, just so we
Yay.
can reconnect. And not that we ever need an excuse, but we actually had one.
You have an excuse.
We do.
well,
We do.
there are probably quite a few people who hadn't seen you before on the Great Canadian Baking Show, and so their first exposure to the wonder that is Steven,
Yeah, I got my
was
end back.
you got your N back, was seeing you on the Holiday Baking Championship.
Yep. Yeah, all the Americans
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
who
right.
can't get Gem without a VPN.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Sad, but
And why
Yeah.
they wouldn't want to because they wouldn't know.
no clue. But
Yeah.
now they get to watch you here.
Yes, that's
There you
true.
go. And
Well,
they got it. And, and I mean, the Holiday Baking Championship. I mean, I love those series, the Baking Championship
Mhm.
series anyway. And then obviously we talk about this all the time, how it's so cool when we actually know somebody that's actually baking on the show or
mhm.
a show, right? And then we find out it's you.
Find out it's me, the glutton for punishment.
I don't think that your run on that show was punishment.
No,
It never is.
It certainly wasn't for us. Because we
No.
had the absolute joy of watching you compete week after week, all the way through the finale.
It was a lot of fun. It's
It
always a
must
lot
have
of fun. You got a camera in a kitchen, I'm a happy guy.
There you
been.
go.
It's true.
Yeah, it didn't look like you were that upset
Suffering.
about being there.
No,
The punishment was how long you had to wait before you could tell anyone,
that
right?
was crazy.
Torture.
Yeah, like a year from when I applied.
Oh man.
That's crazy.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
well, let's get into it. And for those people who don't know who Steven is through Great Canadian Baking Show, he competed on Holiday Baking Championship, which is it still part of Food? It was on Food Network, but
Still
now
on the
it's
Food Network, yep,
so
but
Now,
some
flavor,
providers in Canada
flavor.
no longer carry the Food Network.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, which I think will be a pain
No,
for
it's still going to be on
future.
Flavor
Is
Network.
it still
No,
going
it's
to be on
not.
Flavor?
No?
The
No.
championship series, most of the American programming is
Oh,
not on Flavor Network. So
Okay, I did not. That's
those
what
who
you.
go by the big blue carrier like myself have to pay for Discovery Plus now.
Oh
is-
boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I
this
won't
is.
get into that. I won't because it's a sore spot. I don't watch much TV, so I may have to go to the big red machine because of that.
mm.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are things that we're going to have to talk about afterward. Because anyway, I was going to say something about who does my television, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to say anything. So, but we were able to watch you, and currently I'm watching the Spring Baking Championship, and there's
Yep.
nobody that I know on it, whereas in
Me
your
neither.
season, I knew three people.
Yeah.
You knew three people from my
Yeah.
season?
We knew Natasha,
Mhm.
Kate
Right,
Batter,
that's right.
and
And
then
and
Megan.
Megan,
Megan.
right?
Yeah, the white whisk.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Like I
Yes.
wasn't like
No one
besties
told
with
me
them.
about them. All these
Well, we didn't have the same relationship. Like you and I have met in person, we've hung
Mhm.
out, we've done things together, right? But I didn't have that with either of them. I had an online relationship with them through Instagram, the same way that I had one with you and with you,
Mhm.
both of you, that I decided that the two of you were worth cultivating something more. And I forced you into friendship with me.
I think there was a lot of
Yeah.
forcing going on, just so you know. Not on my end anyway. So
And now we got Megan and Natasha too, so we're gonna like reel them in a little bit more.
Yes, that was actually one of the toughest things was once I recorded it, once I got done, because of the relationship that we have, and I noticed that you guys followed them,
Yeah.
and I thought, this is gonna be fun when they find out.
And it was. It was really
it
fun.
was, yeah, it
I
is. It's so cool to root for the people that you know as well, and then fall in love with so many other new people too. So
Yeah.
now, I mean, I think I follow all of them that were on Holiday Baking Championship, and
Mhm.
then following all of them from Spring Baking Championship, and I followed everybody from Summer Baking Championship, and so it just continues to get, just build a community, right? And
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
you're
and
just
then
growing your family,
growing the fam.
growing
Yes,
the
the more the
family.
merrier. The more
Yeah.
the merrier. And hopefully we'll get a few more people on our program as well. Of course, we had Stephanie from Summer Baking Championship
Mhm.
on last from this past summer's baking holiday.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? The
Summer
last
Baking
Summer Baking
Championship.
Championship.
Yes.
We had her on, and such a treat she is.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we've got a few more coming down the pipe as well from other championship series,
And
including.
congratulations to Stephanie on the birth
Yes,
of her beautiful baby
Yes.
boy.
so cute.
Good for
He's
her.
so,
Stephanie.
yeah,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very excited to see that because she was pregnant when she was on our podcast, and it was still very hush hush. So
Ah,
that was
We
kind of
hadn't
exciting.
announced it.
a lot of secrets on this podcast.
I
Lots,
gotta say,
you know?
well, one secret that can be out right now, for me at least, is that I definitely am not on this year of the Great Canadian Baking Show.
Ah.
So, so let's just nobody
Ah.
ask. It's all
Yeah.
good. I'm okay with it. I got lots going on in my
Okay.
life, and
Yeah.
I'm happy at this time. Not to say that I wouldn't have been happy if I was going to get on season 9,
Season
but
10's a nice round number anyway.
yeah, I was
There you
kind of
go.
thinking that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. I'm not on either, if anybody cares either.
We
So,
do. Everyone cares.
I care.
Yeah, we all
so,
care. We
but
all
now
care.
we're really looking forward to seeing who is on
Mhm.
season
Mhm.
9 of Great Canadian Baking Show. And I guess their journeys are about to start soon. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully there'll be, well, there always is great talent, great
Yeah.
bakers, great people. So,
Yeah. Well, if
and
it's based on what we saw at the casting in Vancouver, if they pick any one of those people, I
mm,
mean, yeah, really
Yeah.
looking forward to
And
watching
I
that.
was at both days in Toronto, so I saw a
yeah.
lot of really good. Another situation of good, good. I don't have to bake against you. That's good.
Yeah, and I
How
can't.
much weight did you gain in those 2 days?
Oh my goodness. It was less about that. It was like the
The
sugar,
sugar
The
high.
sugar, yeah,
the hum.
absolutely.
It's real.
I
Yeah.
bet. Oh
And
yeah.
I don't know if in Toronto, the ones that you went to, if they had a lot of savory. I certainly didn't see a lot of savory when we were there in Vancouver. I mean, maybe they were all at the beginning of the day. I don't know, but towards the back half of the day, which is when we went,
Hmm.
a lot of savory. So
They
Yeah,
I
really
would
would
there were a
imagine,
like.
few, and I'll tell you, we flock when
yeah,
there's savory because you just give me something that's not sugar.
Yeah.
And I
palate
got a sweet
cleanser. Yeah, I would imagine.
Maybe next year I'll do a savory bake, but I was really proud of what I presented this year. I was really proud of what you presented as well, Christina. I think we did an excellent job. So virtual high five to
High
us.
five. Well,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
We know it's not us.
no.
We understand so much more now about how
Yes, it is
casting works.
strictly casting
Yeah.
with you guys right now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I can't imagine how they make their decisions year after year.
Mm-mm.
No.
So all the
No.
power to them, and just crazy. The decision making that has to take place, and just putting together everybody, right?
Yeah.
And getting it so beautifully every year.
Every year.
Like
Well,
just it's amazing. It's
It's
amazing. Every
magic.
year you just find yourself attached to them so quickly.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep, casting does
Absolutely.
an excellent job. So definitely rooting for them to win in that category. We've got lots of nominations for
Yeah.
the Great Canadian Baking Show
Mhm.
for this year's Emmy Awards. What awards? What awards? I don't know. Some
Canadian
award.
Television Awards.
Something. Yeah, some kind of award. I'm like, what is awards? The
See,
Canadian something, not Emmys because that's American. But yeah, very, very much excited that they keep getting nominated and recognized for all the amazing work that they do. So
And they
mhm.
should, for
they
sure.
should. Yes.
Cool.
They brought us to you and to each other.
Yes.
So
Yay, yay. So let's talk about the Holiday Baking Championship.
All right.
So tell us how you got on there.
So, I it's sort of my it is for me the closest feeling to the Great Canadian Baking Show. You know, it has that same homey charm. And for me, I like all the championship shows, but the holiday one, because it's holiday, I don't know, it just has that extra sort of hominess for
Mhm.
me
Yeah.
anyway. And I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of the holidays. As much as I hate winter, like I mean like cold poison hate. I love the holidays. I love the baking of the holidays. I love all that stuff. And even before I got on the Great Canadian Baking Show, I was like, I would like to go on that show, but yeah, no, that's professionals. That's just not going to be. And then I did my stint with the Canadian Baking Show, and then they brought me back for the Holiday Baking Championship
Hmm.
that gives me a taste.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I said, okay, I'm I think I'm a much better baker. Well, that goes for any day, but it was really at around the end of 2023, it was getting to there, and I thought, it's been 2 years since season five. I'm significantly better, I think, than I was. How could I fare against professionals? And I'm a huge fan of Duff Goldman. Like
Hmm.
big, I mean, a fan of all three of them, and I fell in
Mhm.
love with all of them. But going in there, it was like I've been watching Duff forever,
Hmm.
and it's like, wow, I could feed Duff, and if he didn't spit it out, that'd be good. And if I could make it to episode two, that would be good because then that means I beat out a professional baker most likely.
Hmm. Most
And
likely.
so that's, how do I fare? My biggest fear was like, as we know on the Canadian baking show, you're given briefs and you practice and
Mhm.
okay, I don't have a Rolodex of recipes in my brain, and they do. And I don't do this as much or as often as they do. So, really, honestly, my goal was week two. Week two, feed Duff, don't throw up, we're good. And and I said, I'm just going to apply. We'll see what happens. And it seems that, after my application, they were really receptive really quickly. And it moved quickly and slow all at the same time, if that makes any sense. Like I think I applied, it was around November of 2023. And it seemed to, I got to this step, I met with one person and I met with another, and then there became, sort of a bake along situation, and it's hurry up and stop. And then it was as it's inching closer, I was thinking like, we're starting to get close to when I think they're filming. I think they had sort of dropped hints as to when, and I remember sending them someone that I had contact with. I sent an email. I said, I'm just curious.
Hmm.
Like, do I still have a shot? Because my calculations say, you're going to be filming in a week.
Oh my gosh, you were that close to that.
And yeah, and she's like, oh yeah, you're like 98%. We're just, and I don't know if it was because I was Canadian or what it was on their end, but I was like, okay. And then I remember it was a Tuesday. Okay, you're on. And you're going to be on the plane on Friday, and
Oh,
you're going to be we start to film on Saturday. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. There's
Oh my goodness.
no time to get
No,
scared.
this is my
probably a good
Macaulay
thing.
Culkin face. Like, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's nice that you're not prepping for weeks and freaking out about it, but I mean, I'm sure you were doing some practice and no, you
Nope.
didn't
I did
Okay.
nothing,
even.
because my feeling was I know what I know.
Yep. Well,
It is
I
I
what
get
just
it
an
is.
love
attitude.
you. I just love
Yeah.
you and your
I know what I
attitude.
know. I did contact Andre,
Smart,
as anyone should, right?
smart, smart,
And I
smart.
contacted Andre. I said, Andre, I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that any hints you can give me for any recipes to speed things up would be greatly appreciated.
Perfect person to go to for that.
Yeah, and
Yes.
and that's really what I was asking. Like, what tricks of the trade do you have
Mhm.
to speed things up? And I said, and I'm talking, if you can save me a half an hour on something, great. If you can save me 3 minutes, also great.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And he sent me back some ideas. We had a little bit of a back and forth, and I said, okay, one day I'm going to tell you all about this.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Oh,
And the
amazing.
number one thing that was asked of me by people sending me DMs after the show was, I want your recipe for the food processor pâte à choux,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
that was Andre's. This is and literally, I told people, I said, that's not. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. That's not what made the pâte à choux so big and puffy,
Hmm.
but it saved me probably 3 or 4 minutes, and I didn't have to think as much. And
Yeah.
in those timelines, because those timelines are also painfully smaller than the Great Canadian Baking Show,
Mm,
Yeah. Oh,
3 minutes is huge.
yeah.
And I can't thank Andre enough for that because that was just gold.
it's
That was
pretty
amazing.
amazing.
So
That was,
yeah, that was my only prep for the show
oh,
because and in talking to the other bakers, a lot of them were, they were brushing up on this or that or the
Mhm.
other. When I told them the foolishness that I was doing, like, making videos and running around and I and even when we were there filming, the producers would tell us, okay, you got busy days. And in my head, I'm thinking, I've done this before, right? I've,
yeah.
I've done this
Mhm.
before. I haven't done this, but I get it. Like, you need your rest, you need your sleep. But at the same time, it's March. I'm in California. It's not winter. I'm thinking I'm not going to be here long. I'm going to suck the life out of every day. So as soon as they said you had a day off, everyone's just like they're chilling, they're relaxing. And I'm like, guys, we got to go. We got things to do. And nobody would come with me to play. Like, I rented a car, I went to the beach because I wanted to see Venice Beach
Yeah.
and I wanted to watch the sunset. And I went horseback riding in the mountains one day because I wanted, what else can I do? And I did these like the day before the first filming, really take it easy. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Griffith Observatory because that's where Rebel Without a Cause had that really impactful scene where, without ruining it for anyone, where Sal Mineo dies and James Dean was. I gotta go there. So I rented a car and I'm looking at it, okay, now I got my backpack. It's probably 40, 50 pounds with camera equipment, and I've got to get to that Griffith Observatory because then I'll be able to see out into LA, and didn't realize it's like you're walking up a mountain.
Oh.
And it was maybe 18 degrees out, so it was a cool LA day, but I've got like jeans and a shirt and my motorcycle jacket and my
Oh,
backpack. By the time that I get to the top, I'm like soaking wet. But I didn't care. And I think I probably did 20,000 steps the first day before filming of don't wear yourself out. It's going to be a
yeah.
long filming day the first day.
But your prep that you did with being on Great Canadian Baking Show, you knew kind of what to expect on those long filming days anyway. So it's not
Mhm.
like that part was maybe new for you, and you had the weather conditions of the Great Canadian Baking Show tent, of course, that
Yes.
you had to contend with. Where here you were in nice, like, temperature controlled kitchen.
It was nice having a temperature controlled kitchen, I gotta say. That was really sweet, and all the goodies, like all like
Yeah.
professional equipment,
Blast
but
chiller.
blast chiller. Blast chiller
Blast chiller,
is, yeah,
huge,
what a
huge.
lifesaver the blast chiller is. And even the stand freezers were like serious freezers. They had all kinds of equipment, but they there was a producer. She was I think everyone was afraid of her. I thought she was just, she's doing her job. And I think that I made her nervous a little bit because I would ask about the equipment and it was always followed up by, have you used it before? And I'm like, no, but are you going to show us how to use it? If you haven't used it, don't use it. And I said, but I'm here. I want to play. And I think I think she really pictured, paramedics and ambulance with me a lot,
Oh,
which never happened. But I did get to play with some of the equipment. I wanted to use the dough sheeter so badly, but
oh,
I didn't know
Oh,
how to use it. And
there's no time to practice
there's
or
no
to
time to
play with it.
practice.
Yeah.
You have no practice time. And although one of the other bakers for sure would have shown me,
yeah,
Hmm.
it's like, no,
yeah. But
No.
how hard could a dough sheeter be?
I don't know.
I mean,
I'd like to see. I want to go
Is it?
back just to play with the dough sheeter and the ice cream machines that weren't working.
Oh
yeah,
no.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
the
not
ice
dough,
cream. I
helpful if
know
they
I
don't work.
know how to make ice cream, so I was so excited. I can make ice cream in like 15 minutes. This will be great. The ice cream
Yes, because
machines don't
you have
work.
your shortcut ice cream recipes, right?
Yeah.
You got you have so many great ideas. It was actually interesting
Mhm.
because when Christina and I went and baked with Andre in his kitchen, actually he baked for us while we drank tea and then got to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But when he showed us the food processor pastry that day, and then very shortly after that, I watched your episode where you
Mhm.
did it, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, where did he get this trick from? But yeah, it's a huge, huge, huge time saver.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you have so many of those. And I can't believe you didn't give us proper spoiler alert for Rebel Without a Cause.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. But if you
it's
haven't seen Rebel Without a Cause
like
now, I mean
60
it was
years
70
later.
it's 70 years old, that movie. So if you haven't seen it
Exactly.
yet, you're late to the party.
70 is 70 years old already?
Yeah,
It's
from the
got to be. Yeah.
50s.
Yeah. We didn't see it yeah, when it first came out.
No, none of us saw it
Obviously
when it
not.
first came out. No. No. And that was my other thought. Besides, feed Duff and make it
Mhm.
to week 2, my other thought was, okay, they're all, they've all been to school, they all do this
Mhm.
every day. Um, but have they ever baked with cameras and producers
Exactly.
and a clock
Yep.
ticking? That I've got,
And you
right?
had
Yeah.
So I've
that
I've got that
advantage.
experience.
Yeah.
I found out one of them actually did have that
Oh,
experience when I got there. So he was not only trained professional, award winning, but had been on the Food Network, I think on 2 or 3 different shows,
oh,
and
wow.
won and was a runner up. And it's like, oh my goodness
Who was
gracious.
that?
Well, that would be Andre, the gentleman that
Andre.
I stood beside when I was in the bottom 2 that one time, and
Yes.
they called his name and not mine. I'm still shocked from that
Mhm.
Well,
day.
I mean, you always come into it with just such joy and like
Mhm.
not a whole lot of expectation other than I'm going to thoroughly enjoy the experience. I'm going to work hard. I want to feed Duff, apparently. But were you daunted, like actually daunted by all these people who had such impressive resumes, or was it just you were like, well, I'm just going to try to get to week 2. That's literally all I want to
Yeah,
do
I
and to
mean,
enjoy going to the, you know,
yeah, I don't get
landmarks in
intimidated
California.
by that kind of thing. It doesn't intimidate. In retrospect,
Yeah.
I should have been, like with anything. With anything. I'm just it goes with everything I've ever done in my life that I've attempted, which is maybe I was just too dumb to know I should have been worried or nervous or scared but I went in there, no, again, watching the show, I know they're professionals. You don't know how professional is until you're standing in that kitchen with them. And again, I've seen every episode of this show. I might be biased, but the other 11 people are at a level beyond every other season I've ever seen. Like,
Mhm.
when I started telling people the pedigrees that these people had, as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking, how was I even in the kitchen with these people? It's ridiculous. But when I was there, I know what I can do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, you might be able to do this, and this, but that takes a day, 2 days.
Yeah,
We've all got 90
exactly.
minutes, two
Yeah.
hours, 2.5 hours. So the difference is, they can do a lot of it quicker. I was watching the Lambeth cake. This,
Mhm.
I swore I'd never make a Lambeth cake in my whole life. And I was watching it back, and they show a close up of Raffi, doing his piping, which Raffi was across from me for that episode. And I knew in my head, okay, you've got this much time. So in my head, I'm calculating. I have to have the cakes and the filling, and everything's got to be done by here. And I have to give myself, I don't remember. I think I needed in my head, it was like I need a minimum of an hour,
Hmm.
maybe more, to the cake needs to be done and crumb coated, and I need to have an hour left at least to do the final coat and the piping.
Hmm.
And I was still pulling cakes out of the oven, and I could see across from me, I see Raffi is piping his decoration on.
Swag.
I still have warm cakes. Like he's just,
Oh,
and when I watch the show back and they show him doing it, and I thought, wow, he's doing that the way I write my name,
Right.
right? And that's a huge difference, is it's all
mhm.
second nature. Like
Hmm.
almost everyone there, or maybe everyone there, bakes more cakes in a week than I do in a year.
Hmm.
So it's a second nature thing. So yeah, I have a few tricks and here and there to get by, but a lot of it in my head was keep it relatively simple. Like if you look at what I made, maybe they don't look simple, maybe they don't even sound simple, but they're for me, they're components that I know that I'm comfortable with that I can assemble together
Mhm.
to make something. You know, when I made the moose pie with the tree
Mhm.
coming out of it,
Coming
Mhm.
out, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, I know how to make mousse and I know my mousse sets almost instantly.
Hmm.
I know that pie crust can be finicky. I'm just going to make a shortbread cookie and I'm going to press it in and it's going to be a shortbread crust. And as far as the tree, I had done it once and I saw it on YouTube. How hard could it be, right? So I did it once and I did it for a wedding cake. It was like the night before a wedding cake I had done. I had made the layers, everything was done. I had given the sketch to the mother of the groom. Uh, Everything was done. And then, like, I was flipping through YouTube the night before I had to deliver the cake and I saw this this method of taking chocolate, putting it in a food processor, and you blitz it up until not that it's melted, but it turns into putty. So it never leaves temper and you can work with it. And I thought that'd be really cool on this wedding cake. And if
Hmm.
it's not, well, they'll never know that I tried because I just won't show up with it.
Yeah.
And so the next morning I was like, okay, yoga's from here to here. Delivery is here. I've got about a 2 hour window. So in those 2 hours, I've got to make this. And if it looks good, it's coming with me for the assembly. And that's how that happened. And then I hadn't thought about it until that episode. And I said, hey, it kind of looked like a tree. I can probably do this again and make a tree out of it.
Yeah.
Not realizing that right across from me, because we never saw each other, you know, is a chocolatier making the exact same,
Thank
well,
you.
not the same method, but making a tree coming out of her pie. It was insane.
That
Yeah.
was
That was
amazing.
two
Hmm.
Canadians.
Yes. Two Canadians from the Toronto area.
Person.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Same,
Yeah.
right? Same page. That was the coolest episode actually when you guys both did that. And then what blew my mind, well, actually, what was really cool is how you guys blew Duff's mind,
Yeah.
Hmm.
especially you with the way you did your tree. I mean, he was like, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I think Duff absolutely had this bromance with you, Steve. Like he was just like anytime you came on, it was like his face just lit up
He
and he's
did.
like,
He was
I, I,
glowing.
Steven's
I, I,
here.
I think he found me amusing. I'll be honest with you because,
Well, you are.
I think
but,
impressive is
but
the
like
word you're
when
looking
we, it
for.
was the first episode in the main heat. I had to I got it was the one where we had the bark and I had peanut butter or sorry peanuts and raisins, and so I made a Decoise, which they told me it wasn't exactly Decoise. I can't remember the name what it's actually called, but I made that. And in the middle of it, you know, there was Decoise, there was cake, there was buttercream, and when they were eating it, and Duff looked at me, and this is something that didn't make it to air. He said, "What is this? What's the cake?" And I just looked at him and I smiled. I said, "It's chocolate." And he said, and I said, "But you probably don't mean that, do you?" He says, "No, like what kind of cake?" I said, "So here's the thing." I said, "I know how to make probably 10 or 12 different types of cakes. I don't know what any of them are called. I just know when to use them." I said, "There's 11 people behind. You can ask any of them. They could probably tell you what I made. It might be a genoise, but I'm not sure."
Oh my
And so,
gosh, I'm so glad to
Awesome.
hear you say that because I'm
so
right in
that
there with you.
so then we come to the pie with the mousse.
Mhm.
Doesn't he ask me the same question again? What type of mousse is this? And now my smile's bigger, and I said, "It's chocolate." But I don't think that's what you mean. And he says, "No, like, is it?" And he starts rifling off these types of mousse. And I'm like, "Well, this is how I made it." And I
It's
told him, and he looks at me, says, "Just so you know, that's a ganache-based mousse." For the future, if anyone asks you, I said, "I don't think anyone will, but if they do, I'm ready."
there you go.
So
That's awesome.
I
You
really think
Perfect.
he got a kick out of the fact that I knew what I was doing, but because I have no training, I don't really know how or
Yeah,
why I
yeah.
just know what to do.
yeah.
And for me, it doesn't matter what they're called. A rose
You
by any other name, I suppose.
And does it
you
matter as long as it tastes great
Yeah.
and
holds
right
up.
and it
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the case of a moose, is it well set? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
And I stole your mousse recipe off you, so now I know that it's a ganache mousse. So I'm glad
Well, it
to
made
hear that.
sense when he said that. I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
I guess it is a ganache,
it
isn't
does. It makes total sense.
it?
So you basically you bake by ear, the way I play piano by ear. Like like don't know any music theory really,
Right.
but I can play piano. So that's how you bake. You
Well, I mean,
learn
I do follow
things. You
recipes. I
do,
mean,
yeah, you
there,
follow
and
recipes.
when there's something I want to make, and I think I mentioned this once before with you guys, that I would, if I'm not sure, and I'm better at it now because I have more
Yeah,
experience, but certainly
yeah,
when I started, I would Google a recipe
yeah,
and I would look for four or five or six, maybe from trusted
Mhm.
sources,
Mhm.
and see what is consistent in all of them. Okay, so you don't change that, and the other things you can change.
yeah.
And now I can get more, when they say baking is precise, it is, but I'm a fan of saying how precise does it have to be, which I know somewhere Vincent is cringing now as I'm saying
Oh, I
that.
know.
But I mean, but really, how precise? Because you asked a question when we were on once, when we were doing the review of season 8,
Yes.
and the question you asked us was, and I can't remember who it was who did something for the first time, and you said, "Would you ever do something for the first time
Mhm.
On
in the kitchen?" And of
Mhm.
course, Vincent said, "Absolutely not." And
yeah.
I'm giggling because I'm like, wait, one day I get to tell you I was on the Holiday Baking Championship and I multiple times did things I had never ever done before. Like when I made that really horrible pat a choux candy canes, but
Mhm.
I made the isomalt bow for it. That was how my prep was the night before. I was bored with TV, so I start scrolling through YouTube, and I see someone doing pulled sugar, and I thought, oh right, I saw Andre do pulled sugar. I saw Sachin do pulled sugar. They're way better than me, but how hard could it be? Really, how like I don't want to demean their accomplishments, but and I watched this guy. I'm going, he makes it look really easy. It probably isn't, but if
I'm
this
gonna decide it's easy.
yeah, if this
Yeah.
ever comes up, maybe I could crowbar this in. And like the next day, it's do this. And I thought, wow, I don't think this is going to turn out in my brain. This is going to be a magnificent candy cane. But in case it's not, if I can put a beautiful bow around it, like a little lipstick on a pig,
Mhm.
and I asked that the culinary producer, I asked her, I said, do you have heat lamps like for pulling sugar? And she gave me that look again. Why? I said, I'm gonna be pulling sugar. And have you ever done that before? I said, no. I said, but again, how hard can it be? And if I promise to really be careful, I understand the temperature we're dealing with. And I don't think she wanted to give it to me, but she did. She let me use it, and I start pulling the sugar and never ever, whereas on the Canadian baking show, Kyla and Bruno walk around sometimes while we're baking. The judges never walk around on the Holiday Baking Championship. Duff walks in while I'm doing that. And he's walking around and he's looking and he's looking and he's watching me. And I'm like pulling this green sugar. And I just looked at him and I'm smiling. He's smiling back. I said, fun fact, never done this before, but I saw a video last night. He got a kick out of that. And as he's walking by, he stops and he looks at me and says, fun fact, the first time I ever pulled sugar was also in a baking competition.
Oh,
Oh,
how
So,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys did have a little bit of a bromance there.
yes.
Well,
Do you
but
think
the one, and when we talk about, that I baking by ear, and this was, it could have turned out to be the dumbest thing I ever did. It turned out perfectly fine in the end, but in the finale, in the
Mhm.
gingerbread cake house, I had not made for them my signature chocolate cake, which I am known for this chocolate cake. I love this. It's so easy to make. It's so good. It's so moist. And Jesse is talking to me, and I don't know. Maybe I'm lost in his eyes. I don't know.
It's dreamy.
He's a
that is
little
dreamy?
dreamy. I got to be honest. My daughters are just like, well, one of my daughters anyway. Anyway, and it just came out of my mouth that I haven't made for them my signature chocolate cake, and that's what I'm going to do. And he just latched onto that. And as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, but I'm not, because my chocolate cake is so light and fluffy.
Hmm.
even with putting supports and even having a board because it had, we had to have sort of two tiers.
Hmm.
I know the bottom layer is going to get compressed, and I want them to see three or four even layers. I can't remember how many layers I did. So I'm actually not making that chocolate cake. Why those words came out of my mouth is beyond me. But the chocolate cake I made, I had made never, I never ever had made this cake. I've been using my this vanilla cake recipe I've developed over the years, and I can turn it into anything. So I used it for every cake on the show almost. So it's I used it for my caramel cake, for my spice cake, my vanilla cake, tea cake, and I thought I could make this into a chocolate cake. I'm gonna have to guess how much flour to remove and how much cocoa powder to put in. Complete guess. Like I had never done it before. So it was a complete guess. And I've just told Jesse I'm giving them my signature chocolate cake. And when they go, just before they're going to eat it at the judging, and they kept that in when Jesse says, "Oh, by the way, this is his signature chocolate cake. This is what he's known for." And that's why when I said, "Oh, did you have to say that?" Because I'm thinking like, no, this actually isn't my signature chocolate cake. And if it's no good, everyone out there who's had it is going to be shocked. How come he couldn't
They
make?
didn't like it.
Because I
Well,
needed something that had more body to it.
Oh
But
man.
you wing it and
yeah,
swing big, swing for the fences.
You
yeah,
did
for
a great
sure.
job with it. They
Hmm.
seem to appreciate the cake that you did put in front
They
of them.
did enjoy
So,
it.
Totally. Well, and I love the fact that you actually took the whole concept in that finale, and probably this is probably what, well, aside from the brilliant bakes that you had done up until that point, and on that day as well, but you really took it to the true meaning of a gingerbread house look and just had fun with it with all the candies and all that kind of stuff, where I think all the other bakers, I mean, they did a beautiful job and they did these beautiful creations, but they were very which yours stood out because it really took the tradition of the fun and almost not craziness, but just the whimsy of an actual gingerbread house,
Because
if
I
that
was the
makes
only
sense.
child left in the kitchen. That's why I'm convinced. I am convinced of that because there was a point where I was helping Rafi right at the very end, cutting open some candy canes for him. I'm like, Rafi, you need more candy on this thing. Like it was, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. Looked like it
yeah.
was out of an architectural magazine, a
Yes,
theater
right?
house.
They were stunning.
Yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
like, and so it's funny because when they asked him, you needed more candy, and they said it pained you, huh? And you could see his face, like, yes, I didn't want to put candy. I had never used any. I really prided myself on having used nothing from the pantry.
Oh wow.
Everything was from scratch. And in my head, in the finale, everything was going to be from scratch. I was
Hmm.
going to make candies. I was going to make lollipops. I was going to make windows the way Rolf did, except smaller windows. Um, I was going to make the cookies that instead of having the graham cracker cookie that I actually made cookie dough. I had orange flavored sugar cookies that I made the cookie dough. Somewhere in a studio, that dough still sits in a fridge. And the reason is because everything went sideways for me that day. I
Mm.
mean, nothing could have gone worse. The cake was fine. The cake came out. I baked it. The filling, the mousseline, all my praline, all the no, but the buttercream, and they showed the trials and tribulations of my buttercream. They sort of when they said, when they show Rafi and he says, just put more butter. And I said, I did. He said, put more butter. And I put it and it magically came back. Yes, but I was making a triple batch fits in the stand mixer. And I had two triple batches going. And I don't know why. I don't know why I decided to make Italian buttercream where I always make Swiss,
Mm.
and it was soup. And I'm like packing ice on it,
Yeah.
nothing. I'm putting heat on it, nothing. I'm adding butter, nothing. And it was just it was spinning for well over an hour.
Oh,
Like I
wow.
couldn't get it to go. And I'm trying to do these other things in the middle of it. And finally, by throwing a ridiculous amount of butter, one of them worked, but the other one never did. I had to throw it out, start from scratch, and make another triple batch of buttercream. This time I made Swiss. My landscaping, I wanted to have landscaping. So I thought I'm going to make like I did on the Canadian holiday baking special, I was going to do meringue evergreen trees. And I can hear Bruno's voice because when I made those, he loved them. He loved the texture of them. But he said, he goes, maybe they should have been maybe mint because they're green and it's
Mhm.
Christmas. So I make I make this I don't, it was Swiss or French, I can't remember. I made the meringue. It was beautiful, stiff, glossy. I put in the green food coloring. It was beautiful. I put in some peppermint extract and soup.
Plated.
It
Oh,
wasn't until afterwards when I was going over it and I was talking, it was, peppermint extract is oil.
Yeah.
And I've
yeah.
just put oil into a meringue and it just turned
Oh,
into soup and I had to throw it out. So after working and making that, and I had to throw that out. And the cookies, same thing. I was so far behind that I never actually rolled out the dough for these cookies. And there came a point because we had 5 hours left. There came a point where I think there was about 2 hours left. And I figured I needed a minimum of 2 hours to do the decoration. At 2 hours, I didn't even have all my components done yet,
Mhm.
nothing close to it. I was less than an hour I had just finished assembling the cake. And with about 2 hours left, my mind was, I'm done. Like I'm not going to, I may not even complete the task. I have zero chance of winning. And instead of panicking and freaking out, this calm just washed over me. It was like a shower. It felt so good. And I thought, okay, I got 2 hours left and I'm not baking in this kitchen ever again. I'm just going to have the greatest 2 hours I've ever had in my life. And that's when I just like really the child came out. And that's when I just started going to the pantry and grabbing everything I could. I mean, I had planned on doing the pretzel rods and the look is the way I wanted it to, but I wanted to make a lot of those
yeah.
components, but I just started grabbing and that's when I started putting on the M&Ms and one on one in my mouth one, and that's
Mhm.
when Jesse said, "Steven, are you eating the candy?" And I have this smile like a 10-year-old boy and I say, "Of course I'm eating the candy." I was having so much fun those last 2 hours that there was just because I was free of the worry of
Yeah.
competing anymore.
You let
Yeah.
go
It
of
was
the
incredible.
stress.
And
Yeah.
that's why when they announced my name, I mean, it was utter shock. Like when we walked out that day, because you're so stuck on what you're doing. And in my head, it looks like I wanted it to, but it wasn't what I expected it to. I knew it was going to taste good. I had
Mhm.
seen Rafi's because he was beside me and it was impeccable. I never really saw Natasha and Rolf's, but as I walked out, I sort of saw them and my brain saw these perfect cakes. So in my head, there's these three perfect cakes. We went outside, we all hugged, and while we were hugging, I said, I don't know how I did this, but I just came in fifth out of a group of four. Like I was sure it was going to be just a horrible thing, but like I did every other time that I had what I felt was a really bad bake, I walked in there as if I own the room. I'm gonna have fun, and this was a Kyla thing. Kyla taught me on that very first showstopper with the bees, where I was saying, yeah, it didn't really work, the airbrushing, and she said, "Let us tell you." And so I brought that with me into this kitchen too.
Yeah.
And every time it was horrible, I would come in there and smile and say, "Yep, I meant to do this."
Yeah.
And
It was,
when they started with, "This is what we expected to see," I was like, "Okay, all
Yeah.
right, this is okay. This is You don't hate it. That's good."
I
well,
think
isn't,
this is one of the things, this is why you are so well loved by so many people in the baking universe and people who don't bake but have seen you and love watching you on the shows. It's just that you have such a fun energy. Oh,
aw, hello.
This is
hi.
here.
How's it going?
Sorry. Just
It's
got home
all
from
I
good.
work.
haven't seen her all day.
Sorry.
Oh, you need to see
Aw,
each
nice.
other.
Aw, sweet.
Bye. You have such, okay.
Honey, they were
Interruption
saying
by
nice
true
things about
love.
me. You ruined them saying nice things. Now I have to give them the script back.
Yeah, where was I? I forgot. I forgot my
Just how
line.
how well loved Steven is.
Part of it is because you have such a fun energy,
Mm.
like, and you're brilliant. Is she agreeing with us?
No, she's
She's
shaking her
not.
head, going, "Oh no, now how is his head going to get through the door?"
But But that was the other thing I was going to say was that you come in with a humility,
Yeah.
right? You don't ever think of yourself
Yes,
as
you know,
being,
she just popped in. She said she agrees with you. She is. She's my number one fan by
I know.
far.
And you are
Yeah.
also her number one fan because you tell us that all the time. So,
Mhm.
we're very, very, very grateful that you have that in your life because you 100% deserve it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
it all goes to show you though that sometimes things happen for a reason, right? Because had you gone with your original plan, who knows how it would have all worked out? Because
Yeah.
I think that's what the judges really were impressed that you did go out and use all that candy and made it look like that gingerbread house that we all had when we were or built when we grew up and all that kind of stuff. And so I think sometimes, the universe has a bigger plan. And I'm so glad that you partway through just went, I'm just gonna let it go and have some fun and find the joy in the moment like you always do.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah, it was very liberating at that
yeah.
moment. And yeah, because there were a lot of moments leading up to that where it was just, I mean, like again, that Lambeth cake, right? You know, my colors were fuchsia and goldenrod. And man, I nailed that goldenrod. But fuchsia, it was burgundy. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful burgundy, but it was, hold on one sec, decline. My daughter is trying to buzz through. So yeah, it was,
Jace,
it
why do
was,
you have so much family?
Yeah.
it was, but when I came out and they said, what were your colors? And I said, fuchsia and goldenrod. And they looked, they said, fuchsia? I said, yes, fuchsia. That's not fuchsia. I said, this is fuchsia. It's
Act as if,
all
right?
you can do. All you can do is just and I told them straight up during that one. I said, look, we all know how hard anything from the Red family is to impart
Mhm.
into anything, let alone a meringue-based buttercream.
Hmm.
I
Right.
said, could I have given you a fuchsia buttercream if I had gone American? Probably had a way better chance. I
Hmm.
said, but I am never going to feed you something that I won't eat. And I'm never going to eat American buttercream. You're never going to get American buttercream if I go home because I gave you this interesting fuchsia color. So be it. But I'm giving you something that's going to taste good.
Yeah.
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 So,
Good. Well, you sure had us on a wild ride for that
Mhm.
last episode, and Chris and I were on the edge of our seats. And then when you were announced as the winner, I tell you, I know in the room that you were watching it in, there was a raucous celebration going on. We, even with just the two of us in our living room, there was a very loud celebration going on. We were so, so excited. And I think we scared the dogs because I literally jumped off the couch and screamed. And then I was yelling at Chris, "Hey, Dad!"
It was so
It
fun.
was so much
And
fun.
yeah, it's so cool to see that you won and well deserved as well. I know that, the whole time you looked at yourself as the underdog, and sometimes I didn't see it that way. I thought, the way you baked through the entire series, all of your bakes were, you know, look, it's time constraints, right? So maybe there were a couple things that you probably weren't exactly all like, oh, this is fantastic or whatever. They're always,
Macarons.
these little things, right? But, for the most part, your bakes were incredible. They all tasted fantastic. I don't think you ever had any feedback from the judges that they kind of went, yeah, I at least that I remember. But you know, I think you really, as you didn't, I know you personally are thinking you were that underdog, but you really weren't. I think you played and performed to the same level, if not even better. And not to discount any other baker there, because they were all incredible. You're right. The season for the Holiday Baking Championship
High
was so
caliber.
incredibly solid. And everybody, again, any given day, anybody could have taken that championship. We're so glad it was you though, because you were so much fun to watch. And again, that joy that you bring to everything, you could see it in your bakes. You could see that passion in everything that you do. And I think that's the secret sauce, I think, and that secret ingredient that makes baking exceptional. And that's what you bring to the table and bring to the competitions. So
Thank
we
you.
hope that
That's
we
very
see
sweet.
you a few more times
Well,
on our small screens.
it's I would say it's a lot of stress, but as we've discussed before, I don't know. I don't
Sure.
I don't discount the stress, but I get like as soon as I watched episode 1 of the Spring Baking Championship,
Mhm.
I just looked and I had this pang of I really miss that. I want to be there right now. I
Yeah.
really love it in there. I love being in that kitchen, love being just, a part of it all.
Yeah,
It's so much fun for me anyway.
yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
got a
sure.
kick out of it and I know some of the other bakers got a kick out of me getting a kick out of it too.
I bet. I
Yeah,
bet.
that's
Now,
wonderful.
now with Great Canadian Baking Show, I know there's a big family there, and there's a, that you guys chat, you have your own group chat that you go back and forth on and that kind of stuff. It's the same thing at the Holiday Baking Championship as well. Do you guys have like the group of you? I know it's a little bit different and you've got some.
It's different because well, we do chat, not like we do on the Canadian one at all. And I think a big part of it comes where the inception happens. So when you're on the Great Canadian Baking Show, the first thing you do is you make this little WhatsApp chat group. And you're that way you're tight, you're in there. On the Championship Baking Series, we're not allowed to have one.
Oh,
And it's because it's so hush hush about what's going on that, whereas the Canadian one, right, everyone comes back for the finale and on the championship baking, nobody knows except the people in the room at the finale who's there.
mhm.
So if you go out week 1, we're not allowed to be in touch with you. And if we had a group chat, that person would disappear, and then the next person would disappear, and they would sort of know. So, when Julian went home first, he had no idea. After he went home, he had no idea what happened, who went
Mhm.
when. He watched every episode after episode 1 just as a viewer like everyone else. He had no clue. And so we didn't get to sort of become a group again until the show was on TV. And so you miss a little bit of that sort of, you become tighter with the people that you're with. So as it goes longer and longer, there's less and less and less.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
we still do chat. It's not quite the same as the Canadian one. But one of the things also that I was wondering about when I went on the show was going to be aside from American Canadian, but more so professional amateur, right? We were
Mhm.
all amateurs. How competitive? I know what it can be like, or at least from what I've seen on TV, what I've heard. I worked in a deli when I was a kid, which isn't like a real restaurant, but where it's really cutthroat in kitchens and if you're in the culinary world at all, whether it's on the pastry side or not. And I thought like, how is it going to be?
Yeah.
Everyone in that room, all 11 other bakers, were as sweet and nice as anyone I've ever met from the Canadian show. They were helpful and kind and warm. I mean, Rafi and Rolf taught me stuff, like even on the fly.
Yeah.
In the room, people were helping each other with recipes, right? Oh, I've never made this. Oh, well, if you do this and this and this, you can it was amazing. It was and I think that is a testament to people who bake.
Yeah,
Hmm.
They're just the
Yeah.
nicest people are
yeah.
the people who
Yeah,
bake.
it is. It is a wonderful, warm community, and for the most part, I think everybody is all in to help each other out and to provide those tips and just make get the best out of everybody,
Mhm.
right? And yeah, because that's what the community's about, right?
And Natasha is my sister.
Yeah.
She's my little baby sister, but she and I chat quite often, and she she busts my chops quite often too. She
That's
used
awesome.
to love to I think she posted extra Lambeth cakes for a while.
Mhm. I think so,
Um,
just in
just
your honor, I
just
think.
because, yeah, just
Oh,
because.
Her
well,
Lambeth Christmas tree was
oh
so
yeah.
Was
gorgeous,
Yeah.
That was
stunning.
historic.
Yeah.
Like when she did that, and I said to her, I said, that is And she downplayed it so much, and I said, no, no.
Oh,
I mean, in the
yes.
end, obviously they loved it, and she won that week. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just to see it, and because she wasn't sure, and I said, do it, do it.
Mhm.
Are you sure? Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're all gonna have round cakes. Go have fun.
Yes,
But
totally.
she's so super talented. She's so
Mm-hmm.
good. I mean, again, everyone really is in that
Mm-hmm.
room. It's
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge and the and the not just the knowledge, but I mean, obviously what they can do with that knowledge, but
Mhm.
having the what they've got in their brains is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just it's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, we're sure looking forward to chatting with her soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
And
she's such a sweetheart. She's
Oh,
such a
yeah,
she's
she's
sweetheart.
she definitely comes across that way on
Mhm.
her Cape Batter Instagram
Mhm.
handle. Like she's just the sweetest. So it's nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a conversation with her as well.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Hmm. Um, but I know like you probably have some stuff that you can share, stuff you can't share, but obviously you talked about the biggest difference with Great Canadian Baking Show versus you great or the Holiday Baking Championship or the Baking Championship series. You know what you're baking for the most part, except for the technical bake on Great Canadian Baking Show. On this one, you really don't know. So, how do you prepare for that? Can you bring recipes with you? Like, because you don't see anybody, with recipes. You just,
Yeah.
I mean, do you
Is it in your
know?
brain?
Yeah, like, is
No,
it
I
all in
mean,
here
like
or?
I said, the even though it takes a little longer, my vanilla cake recipe, I know it like the back of my hand, and I
Mm,
can modify it into a million things.
Mhm.
And so I did. So you just do what you know, and you ask like when we had to make the when and I still feel bad to this day for trading with Natasha. When I took
Yeah.
this, I had the sticky toffee, and I traded and I got the pistachio entremet. Um, and the funny thing was, I swapped with her, and I've made sticky toffee pudding, but I haven't made it in years, so I
mhm.
wasn't comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
But I traded for her for a pistachio entremet, and I've never made a pistachio cake. But I thought I'll just modify the vanilla cake.
Yeah.
How bad? And the person I asked for advice was Natasha. She helped me because I was
Aw.
like, I know I got to swap out some of the flour for some pistachio flour, and how much of this, and so she was helpful with that. But yeah, you when we would walk in, the first thing next time you watch an episode of any of these, watch when the bakers walk in, and the first thing they're doing is looking, and you're looking around trying to get an idea what's it going to be today.
I
For
see. Yeah.
us, like when it's funny, they told us in the first week, and they talk about it, and it was on the show, right? This year's theme is parties, is holiday parties. That completely went over my head. It wasn't until about the third week I was like, they're doing parties every week. They're like, yeah, that's what they told us in the first week. I said, oh, okay. So, but when we came in the week that they were dressed in, 19th century clothing,
Mhm.
Mhm.
that was it's like okay so what, and as soon as we walked in, and I swear to you, Natasha turns to me, and I already told her how much I hate lambeth cakes. She turns, she goes, oh, we're gonna get to do lambeth cakes. I said, bite your tongue, no, no. And then it was the cookie exchange. It was the cookie exchange. Oh, I don't remember. I don't even remember. I just know the lambeth was the main heat.
The main
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
And when they
yeah.
said lambeth, and they show both of us, they show her excited, and they show me going, no.
Going, "Ugh."
Not as bad as when it was macarons, and
I was gonna
they just
say
isolated me with the oh no.
That was the best. I love
those
that.
are
Oh. No.
But yeah, we walk in there and it's like, what is it going to be today? And we're trying to figure out, when the first time we walked in, we saw up part of the decoration was sort of a loose recipe, but it was art, but it was a loose recipe for eggnog.
Mm,
Mm.
And then they hand us cups filled with, I can't remember what was in it. It was cider or something. And as soon as we were handed the cup, someone said, "Oh, we're going to make eggnog." I said, "I hope not. Hope we're not going to make eggnog." And that was it. Was always guessing, what are we going to do? And then
Yeah.
fast forward, we eventually did have to make eggnog in the finale, right? To playing for our lives. And that was and that was a situation where you ask what we know, what we don't know.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes we're given a little bit of time, like, okay, this is what you're going to do, go, and you've got a few minutes to look around,
Okay.
get an idea what's in the pantry because the pantry is different all the time. What equipment is there? And when it was eggnog, and I had gotten the caramel eggnog, we all had to make eggnog, and it had to be an eggnog based dessert. And I asked the producers, I said, "Do you have any eggnog so I can taste it?" And they said, "Well, you have to make your own." I said, "No, I understand I have to make my own, but I've never had eggnog in my life ever. And I would really like to know what it tastes like so that I
So
know
I
if
can
I'm making it
recreate it.
right."
Yeah. So you can recreate
So they
it.
found some eggnog to give me so I could try it.
Oh, wow.
Did you like it?
Did not love it. It wasn't as horrible. See, when I was a kid, I don't know if Becker's Variety Stores was a nationwide thing or just an Ontario thing, but Becker's, there's Max Milk and then there was Becker's. And I
Mm.
worked at a Becker's, and Becker's was known for their eggnog. Like they were really known for eggnog. And as a teenager, I worked at a Becker's store. And come Christmas time, everyone would buy. That's the only time we got eggnog in, and people would buy it like
Mhm.
we couldn't keep it in stock. It
Yeah.
was, and to me, it was like you're drinking eggs. That's all I could think in my head. That's disgusting.
Mhm.
Why? And again, growing up Jewish, we don't celebrate Christmas.
Right.
Eggnog's really not there, and so now they're telling me I got to make eggnog, and I'm like, I haven't tasted eggnog before, and the funny thing was, of all the four, mine was the only one they said they could taste eggnog again because I thought I better have it in this and this and this and the banana cake that was in my layered dessert. Yes, that was the vanilla cake again that I just made into a banana cake.
Brilliant.
Just keep on
Brilliant.
playing with it.
And so
Yeah.
you must have learned with your vanilla cake from your Auntie Liv, just don't
Mm.
bother ever measuring the vanilla. Just
Never measure
plug it in.
vanilla. Aunt Liv knows, don't measure vanilla.
How is Auntie Liv?
Aunt Liv is great. I mean, she spends a lot of time with my brother out in Beaumont. Uh,
Hmm.
he can be a bit of a pain. We, you
Yeah,
know,
well,
we got together to make those cookies that I
Yes.
posted on my Instagram,
yes.
but
Yeah.
it's uh it's still he still doesn't ever forgive me for stealing Stacy from him. So it's
You
Mm.
still we still
know.
have
That's
a bit
tough.
of a tough, and he's had it difficult. He grew up in the South in the States with my dad.
Hmm.
And that couldn't have been easy. My dad wasn't the easiest guy to get along with. So for me, it was good he lived in the States and I got to live up here with my mom.
Do you think
But
Nevitz is a lot like your dad?
in some ways, in some ways, in
Hmm.
some ways he can. He's never quite found his way. My dad found his way. Nevitt's really, he's having trouble finding his way. And every time I think we're sort of getting closer, it sort of splinters off again. But I think him leaving Yukon and moving in with Aunt Liv has been very, very helpful. I think
For
that's
both
been
of them.
yeah, for both of them, for all of us. It
Great.
mends some fences. And I know that Larry and Liv, Larry and Liv have, they have a nice relationship. Larry was actually she applied for season 8, and
Yeah.
Larry was in her audition video.
Oh,
That
He
is
amazing.
taught her a lot
awesome.
about bread. And I know that she and Megan from season 2, they
Mhm.
talk from time to time. I know she's been
Fantastic.
trying to get in touch with Kathy. I think her and Kathy would really hit it off.
I think
So
that would be a great collaboration.
yeah, we'll see
Well,
if we can get them together.
Christina, you just had lunch with Larry.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Lunch
he
with
was in
Larry and
Vancouver.
Dee. Hmm.
Yeah, with both
Yeah.
of them, Larry and his wife as well. Did they talk about this new collaboration
No, they didn't. We didn't chat. We didn't chat a lot about, actually, surprisingly, did we
about
even chat
baking?
a lot about bacon? A little bit, but not much. We
That's
talked
kind of
about food in general, right? But yeah,
well,
but yeah,
we
it's not crazy.
we feel
But
like
our
like Aunt
significant
Liv.
others were with us too, right? So
Oh,
my
right,
husband was
your
there and Dee was
significant.
there, and so yeah,
Yeah. We feel like Aunt Liv is becoming a bit of an institution, and we would like to see if we could get her on our show.
yeah. Do you think you
What do you
could
think?
chat with her and see
She's
if
kind of camera shy. She's
Shy.
camera shy.
But she's so great on camera.
You
Mhm.
know what? She is. I mean, I think that she's been. She's such a sweetheart, but she's, she's a little old fashioned. She's shy. I mean, I'll talk to her.
Okay, let us know.
Um,
That would
If
be
you have an
it's
great.
in, that would be great.
Hmm.
yes, yes.
Yes,
If I can get her, if I can convince her to, make herself pretty one day,
she's
then
just lovely.
She is
yeah, I
gorgeous.
know she's lovely, but that's how she feels. She feels that she just,
Mhm.
sometimes she feels that she just needs to be prettied up for the camera. So,
She
and
just has
it's
to be her. Just has
that's
to
what I
be
tell
her.
her. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I just
Yeah,
wish she
maybe.
was around more when I was younger and she could have taught me how to bake.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
at least you can bake cookies together now every once in a
Yep.
while.
Yes, every once in a while.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Stephen? You always have something up your sleeve.
I got nothing.
Nothing.
I wish I was keeping something from you right now.
I know. I'm like, well, he wouldn't tell us
Yeah.
anyway.
No, I wouldn't tell you. But I'm telling you honestly that no, no. The only thing I keep putting out there into the universe is, I look at these baking shows sort of like there's three prongs of people, right? You have judges, hosts, bakers.
Mhm.
I've been a baker 3 times now, and I would do it a fourth time. There's no question. If it was the right thing, I would. I don't know why, but I would do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could ever be a judge because I really believe that I don't. I do not have a palate for it. Like I know sweet. Oh, that's sweet. Good. Well, I could not. I couldn't tell you different flavors. I don't. I have the palate of a child. But boy, do I think I could have fun as a host. So I keep on throwing that out there that if they ever have a show where they need someone who acts like a goof, knows a little bit about baking, a little bit about cooking, they should just happily ask me, and I would happily uh, give it a try, give it the old college try. That I would love to do,
I think you
just
would be
because
fantastic.
I love the process of it. It's not
Mhm.
even, and don't ever, and then we're broadcasting. I was going to say, don't ever tell anyone, but of course, now this will go out there. But the truth is, between you and me,
And the fence post.
and yeah, that I would do, I like the whole process of it, not just the baking, but the baking with the producers and the cameras and
Hmm.
everything. But it never has to go on TV. For me, it's not about being on
Yeah.
TV. It's
Yeah.
the whole fun of it all, the interaction with all the people.
Hmm.
Um, and so I would do that as long as you'd have all those people there, but you don't ever have to air it. I'm okay with that. I when I did that when I did the Gay Lee commercial this past summer, they were so
Mhm.
sweet to ask me to go on that Gay Lee commercial, which was so much fun. And I came home and Stacy asked how it was. I said, honestly, they didn't have to pay me. And I would do a commercial like this every week, once a week, just because I want to do it. She
Hmm.
says, you'd want to do that and go on TV that often? I said, no, 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 no. They don't actually have to have the cameras charged, but I need the camera people there. I need the direct. I need all of that to happen. But no, they never have to show it. I just want to go and do it every week. Happy to
Oh,
do it.
It's the
That
process. It's
I love the process of it all. I really
very
do.
cool. Well,
yeah.
we sure hope that we get to see you a whole lot more on TV on our small screens for sure. So hopefully something. And I think you'd be terrific. You'd be so much fun. In fact, I think the baking championship, if Jesse ever decided to, because he's got a
Jesse is
lot of
so
jobs,
yeah,
he's
but
so,
he's so
so
good at
busy.
that. And this
Yeah,
is
he's
so
really good.
different than everything else he does,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he does college football on the
Yeah.
weekends.
Yeah.
He does the Bachelor, Bachelorette. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
this is you could almost see football and Bachelor, Bachelorette, but then he gets to be this goofy dad joke kind of guy who on the bake, which is, and I honestly, I'm not even, I'm sure, as a matter of fact, we never discussed it, but I'm pretty sure he has no idea how to turn an oven on. That's the impression I get, but you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a really great host for that show. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
just amazing, and I love the interaction he has with the judges. And the judges, like I said, I went on there to feed Duff, and I fell in love with all three of them.
Yeah.
Carla is just to watch her on the show,
Mhm.
and you hear again, you only get snippets, right? We get much longer judgings.
Yes.
Her insights and
Hmm.
her
Mhm.
wit are incredible,
Yeah.
incredible. And Nancy, is sort of, kind of, yeah, well, yeah, when she did that on my very first bake, like the first, and I thought, like, really? The very first bake? But she, the way she, I wouldn't say attacks things. The way she looks at things
Mhm.
Mhm.
is similar to me as well. Sort of more cozy, homey,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And she knows what she likes. She knows what she doesn't like. It better be holiday, right?
Mhm.
If
Yes.
it's spring, it better be spring. And she's
Yeah.
right, right? That's the
Yeah.
name of the game, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You
totally.
gotta you gotta decorate. And I didn't know in my head, decorating maybe not my strong suit. It is in some respects, but for the holiday to make everything
Yeah.
holiday. And
Mhm.
it became tempering an awful lot of chocolate for me on that show.
Which
You're good at.
you're really good at that.
Well, again, do the things you know,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
and 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 that will give you the time to do the things you've never done. So
Mhm.
you can do both of them.
Very true. Very true.
So cool. Well, it looks like you had such a blast on the show and made quite an impact. And obviously, spoiler alert, if anybody hasn't seen it, Steve won.
Yeah, we were celebrating for no
Yeah,
reason.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. We've already been there, done that. It's Monday.
It's all good. But
But
Stephen, you also had a pretty amazing and impressive trip recently.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, I think that you should maybe do more with your photography because wow, like some of those photographs, they blow
Mhm.
me away. They're so beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
tell us a little bit about what you did on this trip and how long you had it planned for, because I know you planned it before you won the
Yeah.
show.
So that was one of those things that really just, when they asked us, we go for it. The interview process while you're filming is you film, you do the bake, you interview, you get judged, interview. And
Mhm.
it's just but every interview, there's one question they ask you every time. The two questions. How much would it mean for you to win the baking championship? And
Mhm.
what would you do with the money?
Mhm.
And I'm a smartass. And so
What?
I was giving them answers that in a million years they could never use. Like I was giving them, these are the answers you're going to use at your holiday Christmas party. One of them, and it was just, sometimes it was premeditated, and sometimes it just flew out of me. Like there was, what are you going to do? Because the very first time they asked me that, and I said, come on. I said, I've watched this show, and how many times I hear people say, I can finally open that bakery. I
Mhm.
said, really? 25, look, $25,000 is not insignificant, but it's one piece of equipment for a
Mhm.
bakery. It's
Mhm.
two if you buy them really used. I said, so, and she says, yeah, the producer I'm talking to, she says, yeah, yeah. And I said, now, would you like an answer that you can use for this? And I would, I would, another sincere answer, but I knew they couldn't use that. But there was one, my favorite one in particular was, what would you do with the money? And I said, well, my kid. And she says, well, you have two kids. I said, well, and I just looked right into the camera. I said, "Parents, you understand. There's always one you like better than the other, right? We all have that. And there's one that's like, that kid's okay." I said, so, I said I would give it all to my younger daughter. Oh no, sorry. I said I'd give it all to my older daughter, to my daughter Jessie.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
producer, her jaw was on the floor, and she goes, "You obviously, it's an inside joke with you and your kids." I said, "No, actually, no, not at all."
Oh my goodness.
So they thought you were serious?
No, well, I told her, I said, the reason I chose my older daughter, I said, because my younger daughter has my sense of humor. And so if you do put it on TV, and you should, my older daughter will think she's getting the money if I win, and my younger daughter will get the joke. And I told my younger daughter, and she's like, "Oh, I hope." And this is the daughter I said wasn't getting a dime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah.
like, "Oh, I hope they better use that. They better use that now." See, to understand that she has my sense of humor, week in and week out, sitting in front of me in our viewing parties, she would be not just cheering for, but screaming, "Team Megan, Team Megan." And I love Megan. But my daughter she was all in for Team Megan. I thought she was going to cry when Megan went home.
Oh,
Oh,
so
So
they didn't know
adorable.
your daughters. You didn't tell your daughters the
Of
final.
course he
Oh,
didn't.
we're not allowed to.
Oh, it's not the same. I mean, you watch it, you still feel all the same feelings that you feel,
Exactly.
yeah,
regardless of what you know,
Exactly.
right? We
But yeah,
had no
so
idea, and that was really cool. And because every week was like, he made it through another week.
yeah.
That's so awesome,
but now
But
I've gone off tangent. You asked me about the
yes,
trip.
about
So
your
Your
and
trip,
and,
trip.
and
yeah.
what I was coming around to was
Right.
one of the times I said foolishly, I will take the whole family on a trip, or I'm going to go on a big trip. That's the one they aired.
I was gonna
I
say that.
I
Yeah.
gave them 30 different answers that would have been amazing. I gave them one that they could never have used, even if it was pay-per-view. But
Can you share it with us?
after we turn off the camera. But but I didn't even remember giving them that one, and I see it, and now everyone in the watch party knows Stacy and I are going on this crazy trip to Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam. And on
Oh,
TV, they're like, I'm gonna go on this, take the family on this big trip. There had to be 30 people in the room. They all turn and you won. And
oh
Stacy
no.
stands up. She says,
Oh,
to be fair and honest,
Mhm.
this trip, as you can imagine, we started booking a year and a half ago.
Good. She's
Yes.
got
So
your
yes,
back.
this trip we started the planning, and um it made the financial hit less by
yeah.
going
I can
by winning the
imagine.
show for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was amazing. We were gone for over 5 weeks.
Wow.
We were there were seven of us in New Zealand motorcycling on Harleys, both islands, 3,900 kilometers for 2 weeks. And then we all split up, and Stacy and I continued to Australia for, I think it was 10 days. We went to Brisbane so we could go to the Australia Zoo because she loves the Irwin show.
Yeah.
We went up to Port Douglas so I could snorkel on the barrier reef, and we went to the Daintree Rainforest, down to Melbourne, and then we spent 9 days in Vietnam, which was like life-changing. It was
Wow.
incredible, Vietnam, absolutely incredible. And we had the good fortune of Vincent and his husband Phil have a friend who was born and raised in Vietnam, moved to Canada, moved back to Vietnam. They put us in touch with him, and
Oh,
he made itineraries for us. Taught like he and I video chatted for a while. He made an itinerary, and in the end, when we got there, we said, if you want to come with us wherever. And so he essentially was our personal tour guide the entire time. We went on
Amazing.
excursions. We went to the mountains for 3 weeks on motorcycles. He came with us there. It was
oh,
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, it
That
was
is
really
awesome.
something.
The
What a
whole
trip
trip
of a
was so good.
lifetime.
It really
Yeah.
was. But every trip we take is a trip of a lifetime.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, because you approach everything that way
Yeah.
anyway. I mean, you could go to, I don't know, what did they say in Wayne's World? What was the one? I'm in Delaware, right? You could, I don't remember. Do you remember he was like all excited? It's like, oh, yay, there was a
I've
green
never
screen.
seen Wayne's
You've
World.
no what? Okay.
Nope.
I'm like, why is nobody reacting to this? But okay.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. I know. I'm showing my age. Anyway, Delaware, you could go to Delaware and make Delaware
I've been
really.
to Delaware. I've been on
Was it
motorcycle to
exciting? Was
Delaware.
it
There
wonderful?
you go.
It was amazing. The Delaware River Valley, and we went to I think it's pronounced Delvamar, which is where Delaware, Virginia, Maryland all sort of meet
Right.
as one. Cool. And then and we got to Delaware by going through Virginia, and we went over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. If you've
Oh,
never seen that, Google the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. It is, instead of having a bridge going over Chesapeake Bay, then they'd have to make drawbridges so the ships could come in because it's a port.
Yeah.
What
right.
they do is it's a bridge, it's flat, and then it just goes into the water, becomes a tunnel, and then it comes
Oh,
back up again, and then goes back down again. And when you get to the other side, you're in Delaware. And
That's
that's what
that's
makes Delaware
wicked.
that's
amazing.
wild. Okay, Wayne's World had it all wrong. Delaware is super cool.
Yeah, everywhere is super cool.
Well, when are you coming out here, mister?
Yes. When are you coming out to the West
So
Coast?
that is the problem because so this was
Problem.
part of keeping the secret. So Karen from my season on Great Canadian Baking Show got married.
Right, yeah.
Karen lives in
Yes.
BC.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our entire season, except for two of us,
Two people, yeah.
went out. One person, Alina, she was in Romania, kind of
Yeah.
hard to make that flight.
That was difficult.
I
Yeah.
booked a flight, I booked hotels. I couldn't give her an answer because I'm trying to get on the show. She got married in March of 2024. And
Right.
I'm like waiting. Am I going to get on? Am I going to get
Yeah.
on? And then I get on. I don't know how long I'm going to last.
Right.
And if I last, and I'm doing the math because they didn't tell us anything, whereas the Canadian one, here's your schedule. This is the
Yes.
shooting day. We knew nothing.
Wow.
Like it would be the end of the day, and they'd either tell us tomorrow we're filming or tomorrow you're off. Like we knew
Oh,
nothing.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I just kept sending her an email saying, I can't tell you why, but I'm in the middle of some very important work and I
Oh,
tell me when
Oh,
the latest is that I can give you an answer. And she actually got the caterer to push it and it was
oh,
oh.
and had I gone home in the semifinal, maybe the quarterfinal, I
Hmm.
could have taken a flight up to Vancouver. I would have finally seen British Columbia, which I've never seen.
You'll
And
love
and I
it.
could have
You'll
been
love
there with
it.
all my family, all my baking family. I could have met you guys there. And
Yeah.
in the end, I our filming finished the day after she got married.
oh.
Oh.
So I didn't get to go to her wedding.
Oh,
But she did send macarons home with Vincent for me.
Oh,
that's
nice.
good.
Nice. And then
So
Wow.
probably finally understood why you couldn't make it when
she was
she.
the
Eventually.
first person I told, actually, when we were
Oh,
allowed to tell people.
Mm.
I sent her a note before I told anyone. I said,
Oh,
"You needed to know this before everyone, and then I told our season, and then I told the entire alumni group, and then I posted it.
nice.
amazing.
Oh,
Well,
aw.
okay, well, you'll have to spend some time with Karen when you finally get out here.
Yes,
Yes.
I haven't seen her in a really long time.
She's so
I haven't
lovely.
seen
I
a lot
really
of the
love her
bakers
too.
from my
So.
season in a long time.
Hmm.
I have to go out east too. I'm
Hmm.
going out east soon.
You're just going everywhere
I'm
Except
trying.
here.
except here.
But there. Well,
You know,
there.
you could have, when you were away in like Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, did you not fly through Vancouver?
No, we to get there. Stacy hates to fly. She really hates to fly.
No.
So it's like, what are the fewest amount of flights to get to? We had to get to Christchurch, and one airline flies one stop, and that's Cathay Pacific flies.
Mhm.
You fly Toronto, Hong Kong, 15 and a half hours. Then you change planes and 11 and a half hours, Hong Kong to Christchurch. So we made sure the layover was 15 hours there. So we
Yeah.
landed and we spent the day
Yeah.
we spent the day in Hong Kong
Mhm.
on Chinese New Year. It
Yeah.
was January
Oh,
29th. It
How
was Chinese
cool.
New Year. It was wild.
that would
Uh,
be.
and then that allowed us to sleep on the plane to get to Hong Kong, not the whole 15 and a half hours, but
Mhm.
it really meant no jet lag. And then we slept going down to Christchurch. And then coming home, I was considering like, okay, so maybe we'll stop. I was thinking about stopping in LA for some time because there's a few of the bakers from Holiday Baking who live in the Los Angeles area. And then I thought about coming to Vancouver instead. And the difference between stopping and not stopping was ridiculous.
Mm.
Oh,
And it just, yeah, I said,
Yeah.
okay. So it was just another
That's
Hanoi, Hong Kong, all the way back to Toronto.
that's
I mean,
all good.
we were on 8 flights total on this trip.
That's
wow.
crazy. Well, when you finally make
Incredible.
it out here, you have a place to stay if you wanted it. You have friends who will give you an itinerary,
Yes, we can
etc.
put together an itinerary.
Chris is very, very good at that. And you have to come stay at our little cabin on the water because it's just beautiful.
I do love
So,
the Pacific.
yeah, so
Mm.
one of these days, it's always ready for you. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not always, but at this point, the offer is there.
Not
Yes.
always.
Well, it's a family cabin that might end up
I
being sold,
see.
Um,
unfortunately. My happy place, but besides the kitchen, that's my happy place. Well, we're not going to do with this or that with you because
we've
we've
already
done it
done one.
before. And we're not going to ask you raisins or no raisins in your butter tarts.
Nope.
Did you prepare a baking scrap for us?
A baking scrap.
Yes, a little tip or a trick
Oh,
for,
I know what a baking scrap is.
come on now. You don't have to have one prepared because we've done this before. We're just having a chat. We just
Yes,
needed to
no.
catch up on you.
I'm the best baking scrap I can give, and I've alluded to it while we talked. I've alluded to it every time we've ever talked, is just honestly, don't worry at all. Don't stress. I have friends who are, and when I say home baker, I mean they just bake because they'll make two cakes a year, a cake for their kid, a cake for their spouse,
Mhm.
and they won't show me pictures, they won't let me taste it, and I'm like, "No, you don't understand. You're baking it. If you're baking and you rarely bake, that is all love."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And don't stress. That taste comes through. Someone today actually who got a cake from me on the weekend said that exact thing to me. She said, when you can taste that you love what you do
Mhm.
in the cake that we ate this weekend. And my baking scrap is exactly that. Just do it because you love to do it, or do it because you want to be playful or adventurous.
Mhm.
If you've never done it before, do it, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to give someone food poisoning. Big deal. They'll get over it.
Be fine in 24 hours. It's all good.
Excellent, excellent advice from Steven Levitt, winner of the Holiday Baking Championship. We're so impressed with you
Oh,
as always, and we
yeah.
love you, and we're so glad you came to chat with us
Well,
again.
I love you guys too. Thank you so
Yeah, of
much for having me back. What a
Oh
treat.
gosh.
course.
You
And come back again.
you
I'd
know
love
you're
to.
you're an honorary part of this podcast. So,
Yes, one of the fabulous Baker boys.
That's
yep.
right.
Yep.
Season nine's just around the corner.
It
I know.
is. Isn't
And
that
we'll
crazy?
gladly have you back.
Hmm.
It'll be wonderful. All right, buddy. Thanks so much for joining us. And
Pleasure.
Thank you,
thank you
Stephen.
everybody else for joining us. We will
Yes.
talk again soon.
Bye all.
Bye.
Ah,
Yeah, I feel better
I,
now.
I love him. I love Stephen. I mean, come on, who doesn't
How
love
can
Stephen
you
Levitt?
not love Stephen?
Right? Such a joy,
Yeah.
such a breath of fresh air,
Hmm.
so funny. There's so much lightness. And I hope you guys had fun watching this episode,
Yeah.
bringing Stephen back for, a celebratory conversation about his incredible win and run on the Holiday Baking Championship. And of course, we spoke just a little bit about his epic trip
Yeah.
as well. So cool, so cool to have him back and have
And if
another
you can't
conversation.
get enough of this guy, follow him at Grateful Baker on Instagram. He also can be seen on season 5 of the Great Canadian Baking Show, which you can find on the CBC Gem app or on YouTube still, and the Holiday Baking Championship. And of course, our recaps here. So
Yes,
you can go back. You have so much, Steve, that you can catch up on. And, we just encourage that because who can't use a little bit more joy in their life?
absolutely. Yeah, highly recommended.
Highly recommended.
If
So
if we could
until
do a Google review for Stephen Levitt, it would be 5 stars.
5 out of 5 or
Five
10
out of
out of
five.
10.
Off the charts.
Off the charts. We just love him and he is pretty amazing. So thanks
Absolutely.
everybody for joining us for this episode, and we will see you again soon. We leave you with one more reminder. Please go and vote if you are in Canada, and
And
happy baking.
and don't forget to spread some joy wherever you go as well, because we sure need a bit more joy in all our lives these
That's for sure.
days. So
So happy baking, joyful baking, grateful baking,
great, grateful. Yes.
grateful baking.
Bye-bye. Happy baking.